Who is the Lenovo ThinkPad P71 actually good for? Who should just keep scrolling? And does its sky-high price make sense for a regular everyday buyer? If you're sitting on the fence about spending a small fortune on a 17-inch laptop that claims to be both a mobile workstation and a gaming beast, you're not alone. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. And in the next few minutes I'll walk through the real-world trade-offs so you can decide whether this machine belongs in your bag or on your desk. First off, let's acknowledge the core dilemma most people face when they look at a laptop like the P71. You either get a desktop-class GPU and a massive 4K screen and end up with a slab that sips power like a desktop, or you settle for a thinner, lighter gaming notebook that can't quite keep up with professional workloads. The P71 lands squarely in the first camp. It's built around an Intel Xeon E3 processor, 64GB of RAM, a 1TB SSD, and an NVIDIA Quadro P3000 with 6GB of VRAM. Those specs scream workstation, not portable gaming rig. If you're the type who spends 8+ hours a day in AutoCAD, Adobe Premiere, or 3D rendering software, the raw compute power and the dedicated color calibration sensor in the palm rest will feel like a daily productivity boost. If you're a casual gamer who just wants to hit 1080p at 60 frames per second, you'll probably find the same performance in a far cheaper 15-inch laptop. Let's talk about the display, because that's where the P71 actually shines in a way most gaming laptops don't. The 17.3-inch UHD 4K IPS panel comes factory calibrated and even includes a Pantone-approved X-Rite sensor you can trigger from the keyboard. For a photographer or a video editor who needs to trust that the colors you see on screen match the final output, that sensor is a genuine time saver. In practice, I've seen professionals run Photoshop side by side with a calibrated external monitor and still prefer the laptop's own screen because it stays consistent even after moving between rooms. The anti-glare coating helps when you're editing on a bright office floor, but it does add a tiny bit of grain to dark scenes, which gamers might notice during horror titles. Performance under load is where the Xeon Quadro combo really gets tested. Running a recent CAD model with textures and lighting turned up to maximum, the CPU hovers around 3.8 GHz while the GPU pushes the P3000 to about 90% utilization. The machine stays responsive, but you'll definitely hear the fans spin up. The ThinkPad's cooling system is designed for sustained workloads, so the fans run at a noticeable whine for long periods. Think of it as a constant low-level hum you'll get used to after a few days. It's not the screaming fan you hear on a cheap gaming laptop, but it's also not a silent office notebook. If you plan to game in a quiet bedroom at night, you might find the fan noise a bit distracting. Battery life is another practical consideration. With a 94Wh battery, you'd expect decent endurance, but the 4K panel and the Xeon chip drain power aggressively. In my tests, you get roughly 4 hours of mixed-use some video playback, a bit of Photoshop, and a quick game of Fortnite at medium settings. That's enough to get you through a morning commute, but you'll need to be near a power outlet for any serious workday. Compare that to a typical 15-inch gaming laptop that might stretch to 67 hours at 1080p, and you see the trade-off: you gain workstation power at the expense of unplugged mobility. Keyboard feel is a hallmark of the ThinkPad line, and the P71 does not disappoint. The spill-resistant, backlit keys have the same tactile response you've come to expect from business laptops: short travel, crisp actuation, and a satisfying click that still feels comfortable for long typing sessions. For gamers, the key travel is a bit shallow for rapid, repeated keystrokes, but the dedicated game mode toggles the FN key behavior and enables anti-ghosting for the WASD cluster, which helps during fast-paced shooters. It's not a mechanical gaming keyboard, but it's more than adequate for both coding marathons and the occasional esport match. Port selection on the P71 is surprisingly generous for a laptop of this size. For USB 3.1 ports, one always in, an HDMI 1.4b, a mini DisplayPort 1.2a, plus the built-in 720p webcam give you the flexibility to hook up dual external monitors, an external SSD, or a VR headset without needing a dongle. The always-in USB port is a neat feature for keeping a peripheral like a Bluetooth dongle powered when the laptop sleeps, something I've personally found useful for keeping a wireless mouse connected in a conference room. Now, who should actually press buy on this thing? If you are a freelance 3D artist, an architectural visualizer, or a video post-production specialist who needs a portable workstation that can render complex scenes without sending files to a desktop farm, the P71 checks almost every box. The color sensor alone can shave hours off your workflow because you no longer need a separate calibrator. If